During the final violent months of World War II, when Nazi Germany was collapsing, cities smoldered in ruins, and armies clashed across a dying front, an entirely different battle was taking shape behind closed doors. A battle waged not with tanks or aircraft, but with classified files, coded cables, and silent midnight meetings. While the world believed the war was nearing its end, the United States was already preparing for the next conflict, one that had not yet begun, but one they knew was coming. And to win it, they needed something Germany still possessed in abundance: scientists, brilliant, ruthless, disciplined, and responsible for some of the most terrifying technologies ever imagined. The mission had a name, one never intended to be spoken aloud outside intelligence circles. Its purpose was simple, yet morally complex. Locate Germany's top scientists, seize them before the Soviets did, erase their Nazi pasts, and bring them to America. Their knowledge, their genius, and even their war crimes were to be hidden beneath a paperclip attached to a sanitized, rewritten personnel file. Because in the new world about to be born, knowledge was more powerful than any weapon. As Allied forces pushed deeper into the Reich, U.S. intelligence teams raced ahead, often breaking orders and crossing dangerous, contested territory to capture laboratories, rocket facilities, and the men behind them. They scoured bunkers, burned out factories, underground tunnels, and mountain strongholds. They gathered documents by the ton: blueprints, formulas, prototypes, anything that hinted at Nazi Germany's secret scientific achievements. What they found stunned them: rockets capable of reaching the edge of space, jet fighters far ahead of anything the Allies fielded, nerve agents deemed too horrifying for battlefield use, and experimental aircraft that looked like machines from another planet. Behind these creations stood men the American government desperately wanted. Men like Wernher von Braun, the father of German rocketry; Arthur Rudolph, architect of the V-2 missile; Walter Dornberger, a mastermind of Germany's long-range weapons program; and Hubertus Strughold, whose research into human endurance came at a horrific cost to concentration camp prisoners. These were not ordinary scientists. They were assets whose knowledge could reshape global power, but to recruit them meant confronting a moral paradox. How far would America go to secure their expertise? And what horrors would be forgiven along the way? In April 1945, as Nazi Germany's collapse accelerated, a small team of U.S. intelligence officers entered the Bavarian Alps under total secrecy. Their mission? Extract Wernher von Braun and his rocket team. The Soviets were only days behind. Whoever captured the German rocket program would gain a decisive advantage in what many quietly expected to be the next global conflict. Von Braun and his team knew their fate depended on making the right choice. Surrender to the Soviets meant imprisonment, or worse. Surrender to the Americans meant survival, and potentially a new future. So they made their move. They gathered their documents, destroyed sensitive materials the Allies couldn't reach in time, and set off across dangerous terrain, hoping to find American forces. Their convoy became stranded, their vehicles broken, and their supplies dwindling. But on May 2nd, 1945, they finally located an American unit near the town of Reude. Von Braun calmly walked forward, holding out his arm in surrender. The man responsible for building Hitler's 5-2 rockets, the weapon that rained terror on London and killed thousands, was now asking the United States for protection, employment, and a new identity. The Americans accepted, because the war might have been ending on the battlefield, but a new war, the Cold War, was already beginning. As U.S. intelligence transported von Braun and his team to a secret holding site, they also captured other key figures. At the same time, Soviet trophy brigades were racing toward German scientific centers, dismantling entire factories and shipping them, piece by piece, back to Russia. The U.S. could not afford to fall behind. By June 1945, Operation Paperclip was formally approved. And from that moment, a moral line was crossed. Scientists with verified links to concentration camps, forced labor programs, and human experiments would be quietly reclassified, their files altered, and their Nazi Party memberships erased, literally clipped out of their folders and replaced with clean pages. Their past no longer mattered, only their usefulness did. And before we continue deeper into this hidden chapter of World War II, if you're enjoying this story and want more untold operations, hidden missions, and secret events from World War II, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We release detailed documentary-style deep dives every week. So if you love learning about World War II, hit subscribe and visit our channel to watch more fascinating stories. Now, back to Paperclip. The first wave of captured German scientists arrived in the United States in late 1945, brought in under new identities, with their Nazi affiliations scrubbed from official records. Many were sent to Fort Bliss, Texas, where they continued their work under heavy guard. They developed rocket prototypes, taught U.S. engineers, and recreated the lost German knowledge piece by piece. Meanwhile, the Soviets had gathered their own group of scientists and were quickly starting their own missile program. The race for technological dominance had begun. America needed to accelerate. In secret laboratories, the former Nazi engineers began working on advanced ballistic missiles, designs that later evolved into weapons capable of crossing continents. But even more shocking was what happened next. Many of these same scientists were transferred to civilian agencies, receiving housing, salaries, and eventually, U.S. citizenship. Wernher von Braun was moved to the newly formed NASA, where he became the chief architect of the Saturn V rocket, the very machine that sent American astronauts to the moon. The man who once built ballistic missiles for Hitler was now a national hero on American television. But while the U.S. publicly celebrated its space program, thousands of pages of classified documents remained locked away, detailing the methods, tortures, and human experiments that some paperclip scientists had been involved in during the war. Files describing frostbite experiments, high-altitude torture chambers, and forced labor engineering facilities. The truth was deemed too dangerous to reveal. The Cold War needed these men, and their pasts were buried. For decades, the full story of Operation Paperclip was hidden behind layers of classification. Families of victims never saw justice. Ethical concerns were buried under national security. And as the US and the Soviet Union raced to build nuclear weapons, rockets, and advanced technologies, the origins of that knowledge remained strictly off-limits. It wasn't until the 1970s, after investigative journalists, whistleblowers, and declassified documents came to light, that the American public learned the true scale of the operation. The uproar was explosive. How could a nation that fought the Nazis with such moral conviction later shelter, protect, and elevate former members of Hitler's regime? The answers were uncomfortable, because to the U.S. government, these scientists were never war criminals. They were intellectual resources, tools, assets, a means to outpace the Soviet Union. Their knowledge was priceless, and morality had become a negotiable currency. Today, the legacy of Operation Paperclip remains controversial. Without it, America might not have won the space race. Without it, the Cold War balance of power may have shifted dramatically. But the cost, the ethical cost, remains a haunting shadow over one of the most secretive operations in U.S. history. A story rewritten, identities remade, crimes erased. Operation Paperclip wasn't just a recruitment program. It was a bargain with the darkest chapters of human history. And that bargain changed the world forever.